Hey folks, this is Ardwulf. Welcome back. We're on turn 3 representing October 1914 in our playthrough series of When Eagles Fight, the Eastern Front of World War I. The first thing I want to talk about before we get to the meat of turn 3 is a goof I made. Neil Stevens on Board Game Geek pointed this out, and even after he pointed it out, I had some trouble finding the rule in question. It turns out that the Austro-Hungarians are required to make some mandatory attacks on turn 1, which would have been disadvantageous to Austria-Hungary. So they, in fact, should not have this nice, neat, but rather thin line of troops that they have in our game right now. So without abandoning the game and starting over, there's nothing I can really do about that at this point. So, and I'm not going to do that. So we're going to keep playing under the assumption that in this particular alternate history, the Austro-Hungarian military leadership was a little bit less idiotic than it was historically. So with that in mind, we're going to advance the turn marker to turn 3. The Germans get no reinforcements and no replacements this turn, but there are some Russian reinforcements, and the Russians get a substantial amount of replacements as well. The Austrians do get some replacements, and they will be able to use them because they've lost a number of units. Now, thinking about Russian strategy here, the Russians aren't really doing all that well up here against the Germans. It looks like there's a lot of Russian counters on the board, but they're kind of trickling in a disadvantageous order. The German line is still holding up pretty well. We've got some Russian guys out of supply down here. Conversely, if the Russians can take 3 of these victory cities by turn 6, then they win the game. So I think that the bulk of the Russian reinforcements and replacements are going to be fielded against Austria-Hungary. And basically this stuff that's up on the table is pretty much what the Russians will have to deal with the Germans. And conversely, whatever extra German forces become available are actually going to have to come down here and help bail out the Austro-Hungarians because they're not in great shape right now. So with that in mind, let's get to these replacements. Incidentally, that is something that where the video just got missed somehow in turn 2 for the replacement and reinforcements phase. So sorry about that. We will endeavor to not lose it this time before the video gets made. Okay, so Russian reinforcements need to be placed in cities in Russia, not towns and not cities in Russian Poland. So with that in mind, none of these are really optimally placed. So we're going to place 3 units in Kiev and try and strategic move them down there. And we're going to place 3 units in Gomel. You know what, we'll put them in Minsk because I can strategic move them an unlimited amount of spaces anyway. Now the Russians have 6 replacement points. And here's their dead pile. We've got 2 one-step units. Those will cost 1. There's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. And here's another one. So we have here 6 Russian units. So the Russian accumulated reinforcements is going to stay at 3. And we'll put these guys here. And we don't really have a better place to put the rest of these guys, so we'll stick them up here in Smolensk. That pretty much is every Russian dead unit, and we are going to have to stretch the Russian rail network to its pretty much absolute limit when we place, when we try and get these guys into the action, because right now they are, that's a substantial amount of forces, and it will be really handy, but we got to get them where they need to be first. So let's zoom in. That is the entire Russian part of the replacement and or new units in withdrawals phase, I should say. So let's zoom in on Austria-Hungary and see what they're going to do. Okay, so Austria-Hungary has 3 units that they can replace. These are these apparently 2-step, but in fact only 1-step units, so these come back as 1-step units. This guy is a 1-step unit. It's only a division, though. And they can be placed in any city in Austria-Hungary that is in supply at that particular time. So we're going to place all 3 of them in Krakow. And then Austria-Hungary was unable to spend 3 of their reinforcement points. They're going to have 3 accumulated replacements. You can have more than 4, but you cannot accumulate more than 4 held from turn to turn. Germany once again gets no replacements at all. They don't next turn either, and they don't have any reinforcements either. But the Oberost token is available for them, and that'll make a difference. So let us move on then to the strategic movement phase and see what the Russians are going to do. Okay, so for the Russian strategic movement phase, we can basically move units from city to city along a rail line in unlimited distance. The Russian rail capacity for 1914 is 5 units. It will actually go down as the war goes on. So the 3 best units that I've got, I think, are these. They are. So we're going to take these 3 units right here and rail them here. Is that correct? I think I'm going to send them here instead. Try not to screw up the counters too badly. And then I can move 2 more, and I think one of these, somewhere there's another 2-step unit from Minsk. You can rail those down. We'll put that here, and then we can move 1 more, which will just be a 1-step unit from Gomel, and put that here as well. So we actually can send, let's take this guy and put him, that's the single-step unit, we'll put him here in Ivangorod, or Ivanograd, to try and reinforce that end of the line a little bit. And with that, we will move on to the Central Powers strategic movement phase. The Austrians don't really have anything that they need to do for strategic movement, but they can move these guys up, so they will. Put these guys here. That's 2. I think that's 2 movement points. It is. Okay. And actually, that's 3 movement points. And this guy will go 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure this is clear hex as well. It is. So that reinforces this end of the Austro-Hungarian line a little bit. And let me reposition the camera a little bit for the Germans, because they have to move stuff from the west side of the map. Okay, so we've got these 2 not particularly awesome German units here in Berlin that were reinforcements on turn 1. We're going to rail them up into loads. There's a cavalry unit, which could actually come in handy, and an infantry unit. And we just don't have the ability right now to really help the Austrians out. Next turn, the Germans actually get some reinforcements, and then we can talk. But for this turn, the Austro-Hungarians are on their own. So that is the completion of the strategic movement phase, and now we're going to move on to the Russian turn. Okay, so first we're going to execute the Russian regular movement phase, and we're going to do that focusing first on the frontier against Austria-Hungary. Now, it's pretty obvious that one of the things we need to do is to take Krakow. So we're going to move this line up. I'm going to start down here in this on the west this time. I keep wanting to call it the south. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then also 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this unit can go 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Not optimal placement, but that's what we have. In addition to that, we can move this. Let's adjust these so they're actually in the hexes. This is where the slightly oversized counters are actually kind of a pain. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. And there's that part of the line. So where the Russians want to focus is actually at the 2 ends of the line, because there's a victory city here in Krakow, and there's one here in Saranowitz. My eyes are not awesome. But they don't want to leave big gaps in the line either. So this unit will go 1, 2, 3 to fill that hole. This unit will go 1, 2 to fill that hole. And then in addition to that, I want to see if there's any weak point here I can take advantage of. This is not a particularly strong point right there. This is the only weak point, really. So we'll move this 1, 1, 2. And again, I did mention it last turn, there are no zones of control in this game. Let's see. This guy 1, 2. Move this up 1. Move this guy up 2. And then we're going to put these guys 1, 2. Oh, we can't cross there. Can't do that. We'll still get a concentric attack here if we attack from here. And I can still get a 2-to-1 on that 1, 2, 4 unit. Okay, so we'll put that there. We have these 3 units, which will move as a stack. 1, 2, 3. And everybody else is staying put. This unit, this stack right here, well, this one unit, I should say, the other one is a fortress. I don't really see a lot of options for the Russians, short of charging in and trying to attack Königsberg at 1-to-1 odds. I guess that's not quite true. So over here, what can we do? If we can take Königsberg, we can do a significant amount of damage. But that's going to thin the lines out quite a bit. I've already decided to take this core over here and move that to support what's going on over here. So move that 1, 2, 3 to cut off the at least partially cut off the concentric attack against Warsaw. You know what? We can move him directly into Warsaw at 4. So that'd be silly not to do that. We've got some guys up here that can certainly move down, but one of them is a fortress. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's going to be moving 1, 2, 3, 4. Not much more we can do with that. The cavalry, however, well, another thing. Marsh costs 2. So there'll be... No, there's nobody really else we can move. I guess I can take... I don't know if you can see this or not, but I got a unit up here in Odessa that I can move. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 with him. We'll move these guys in Minsk. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just to get them closer to the action, while keeping them in towns so that they have access to strategic movement. And we've got these guys up here in Smolensk, and they'll move a little bit up as well. That's pretty much everything other than the stuff over here. Nobody else can really move appreciably. I guess I could put this unit here instead of there. That might be a little more sensible, because I got to remember where that was. I think that's legal. I'll have to review the video to find out, but I think it's legal. If I don't think it's legal, I'll leave it where it is, which is not an advantageous position at all. I'm going to leave it where it is just in case. So we'll call it a miscommunication in orders. But I can take this guy and move him 1, 2 over here. And I can take these guys and move them 1, 2, 3, 1. Well, let me clarify that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 4. These are cavalry, so they have 6 movement factors. We'll take this and put it there. And that gives us actually a pretty good opening to attack that there. Stavka is not available this turn. It will be available next turn. So looking this over, it does appear that this is about all I can do with Russian movement. So we will zoom in a little bit and cut away to the Russian combat phase. Again, at the start of the Russian combat phase, we have to roll for Russian ammunition shortage. We're still rolling on the turns 2 to 3 column. The central power player rolls this die. So let's see what we get. We have a 4, which is again 2 units in ammunition shortage. So let's zoom out again and see where those are. Once again, as in turn 2, we have 2 ammo shortage markers to apply. The Russian player will apply one, the Central Powers player will apply the other, and the Russian player will place one first. Now you cannot place these in a hex with a unit that is affected by Stavka. Stavka is not in play this turn. You also can't place it in any fortresses or cities. I believe, though, that this is a town and not a city, so I'm going to interpret that literally and say that the Russians will place their ammo shortage markers here where they know they are not going to be effective. Now, the German player has a significant question as to whether he's going to use this ammo shortage to help out the Austro-Hungarians or whether he's going to use this to help out himself. Logically, well, Warsaw's not a legal target for it. That's the target of the major German offensive this turn. You know what, actually, during the Russian... actually, the attrition phase happens after combat. So if this guy doesn't get in supply this turn, and he won't, then he is eliminated. So looking at the German options, Warsaw, not a legal target. Bearing in mind that we have Oberost available to us this turn, I think where we will place this is actually up here. And that will basically have the factors of that unit for the entire turn. That will put a damper on the Russian ability to hit this hex, and in addition it will make that hex vulnerable to German attack. And these units here are in danger of getting cut off. So we'll see how that works out, but things are looking pretty good to have that happen. So that is the beginning of the Russian combat phase. Let's get to what the Russians are actually doing. So the first attack we're going to declare is an attack against this hex here. There are 1 plus 6, 7 factors in defense, and we're going to hit it from all 3 of these hexes. So that's going to give us 6, 12, plus 10, 22 to 7, which is 3 to 1. So let's roll that up. What are the combat modifiers for this attack? There's a river there. There is a river there, so that's going to be a -1. There's no Stavka. Looking at the combat modifiers, no Stavka, no fortress, no active core, -1 for terrain. Concentric assault does not apply. German heavy artillery, no. So 3 to 1. And we'll put that here, and we'll see what happens. That is a 4 -1 for a 3 on the 3 to 1 column. That will give us a 1 to 1 combat result, which is really not very good. So the Austro-Hungarians can, I think, retreat to take a step loss, but retreating is a bad idea for them, so they're going to lose the cavalry and go there, and that becomes a replaceable unit. Now let's look at these to see if any of these are multi-step units. I think, yes they are. Okay, good. Actually, both of these 6, 7, 4s are. So we'll lose a step from one of them. And they're not horrendous, even at 1 step left. Okay, so let's just mark this in case I get interrupted, which could happen. Let's take a quick look at this hex. That's going to have 9 defense factors in it. That's actually kind of a lot. We could get 11. That's a 1 to 1. It's going to be a 1 to 1 here. So let's do what we thought we were going to do and go back up to the top here, where we are going to hit this hex. That's going to have 7 defense factors versus 11. Let's think about this. We're going to hit this hex too. Okay, so we're going to hit this hex with the 5, 6, 4 is going to attack that along with these stacks because I want the concentric attack. No, actually that's not what I want. The 5, 6, 4 is going to attack this stack right here. So let's put this here. And then this one-step unit here will get in on the concentric attack business. So let's roll that up first. That's going to be 5. There's no terrain there. It's going to be 5 to 2. That's a 2 to 1, which is not very optimal, but that's what we have. That's a -1, so we've rolled a 5 on 2 to 1. That gives us a 1 to the attacker, 2 to the defender. So the attacker is going to lose a step off of this unit. I think that is a 1-step unit. It is, so it's toast. This unit remains in this hex, and this unit is eliminated. So we've blown yet another hole in the line. Now, we want to get our concentric attack going here, and I think we have a very high odds attack, so we're going to have to add that up. So we have 7 factors in defense. We have 3, 8, 14, plus 6, 6, and 6. 14 plus 18 is 32 to 7. That's going to be 4 to 1, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, that's going to be 4 to 1. So it's not a very high odds attack, actually. So let's roll this. I guess there should be a gray die and a green die and not a black die and a red die, because this is not a World War II game. So 4 to 1, what do we got here? Nothing special except a river, so there is a -1 to the result on 4 to 1. 2, so that's a 1 on a 4 to 1. That's 1 loss for the attacker, 0 for the defender. That is terrible. We're going to take a step right here. And there's not much else we can do about that. That is stinky. Are there any other attacks we can realistically make? No, we've kind of put all our eggs in the basket of hitting the ends of the line and trying to take Krakow and whatever little podunk this is. Saranowitz or something like that. My eyes are bad. I can't read that from here in this light. So that is all of the Russian activity against Austria-Hungary. Let's see what they're going to try to do against the Germans. Now, the way I see it, we could, in theory, get 4 attack factors to 3 and do a 1-to-1 on Königsberg, which I'm thinking about. But we might be better off trying to hit this unit here. So this unit is going to be halved. Do I round up or round down? I'm going to have to look that up. That's important. The rule on ammo shortage says that you round factors up. So looking back at this guy, he's going to have 3 attack factors. That's 5 for 8. And that's 2. So we have 10 to 3. That's a 3 to 1. Which is not terrible, but the combat results tables are pretty brutal in this game. So 3 to 1. Do we have any terrain here? I don't think we do. We don't. We don't have a concentric attack either. You know what? We're going to have to make a change. Because this was a concentric attack. That's worth another +2. So that would have given us a result of, instead of 1, it would give us a result of 3. So that is going to be 1 loss for the defender. This is a 1-step unit, so that unit's going to come off. And then this unit's going to be fine. And we can advance after combat down here, which we will do. So we're going to go here and here. Sorry about that, but I don't like to go back once I've moved beyond the point, but that was the last thing I did, so I don't think it's particularly harmful. So back to what we're doing on the German side. We're getting a 3 to 1 attack going against this unit right here. I think we're going to try and hit this fortress as well. So let's destroy the German stack and loads for one thing. Let's do that. That's a 3 to 1 with no particular special modifiers. That's a 2, which is pretty bad at 3 to 1. That's 1 to 1. I'm fairly confident that this is a 1-step German unit. It totally is. So that comes off. We can do an advance after combat. We'll move. We have to lose a step for the Russians. We'll lose the... Ooh, no, maybe not. This is a tough choice. So I can lose this unit, but then these guys are potentially cut off. I can't lose this unit because it wasn't in the attack. I can lose this unit, but then this guy's potentially cut off. So maybe I shouldn't have put those factors in. It did make a difference in the odds. It would have been a 2-to-1 attack otherwise. I think I am going to have to move this, get rid of that, and move him up. And he's 1 step, so he's gone. So that leaves this guy out in the freaking cold. Not much else we can do about that, though. All right, and then this 2.0 fortress here. There is a fortress modifier, so we're going to have 11 factors against 2 for the fortress. That's 5-to-1. But it's at a -1. And looking at terrain, oh, that's in a marsh. Marsh gives me another -1, so we'd be 5-to-1 at -2. I'm going to take that because the Russians got guys. Whoops. The Russians got guys to burn. That's not supposed to happen. We have a 5, which is pretty good. So let me fix this tomfoolery here. I think that's where that was. I will check it before I move to the next step just to make sure that's in the right place. All right, so we have a 5-to-1 -2 for a 3. That's going to be 0 for the attacker and 2 for the defender. So this fortress is removed. And again, that is a asterisk non-replaceable unit. So that's actually going to go back in the counter tray. And we can take an advance after combat, and we will here. Now, Concentric Attack is looking great against that unit, but the Russians have basically shot their load on this, which was the one with the ammo shortage. That would have been this one. The Russians will have the opportunity to strat move before any of that happens, but at the same time, can I trace supply? No, there's no rail line. There's no uninterrupted rail line leading from to here from here, because it's interrupted by either Königsberg or Lotsen. Yeah, and he's not on the same rail line, so it goes through all hexes that are occupied. So that's the end of the Russian combat phase. And we do the Russian attrition phase, which means that this guy here is eliminated. He's 1 step. So I think those units will lose a step. I'll have to double check that, but it's not important here since that's only a 1-step unit anyway. So let's move on to the Central Powers player turn. Okay, so looking first at the Austro-Hungarian situation, it's looking pretty grim. So I feel like I have to move units back in order to maintain anything like a defensive line here. Question is, do I have anything else that I can't afford to give up? Because right now the Russians have 2 of the 3 cities they need. So what I feel like I need to do here is to pull something out like this. And 1, 2, 3, and put that in Krakow. And furthermore, let them blow this hole in the line, although that's dangerous. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that beefs up Krakow, which is as a city in Austria-Hungary, I think is always in supply. For the German stuff, I got a bunch of complicated movement here, so I marked everything that I'm going to do. And bearing in mind that we have Oberost in play as well. And Oberost is actually going to go... Move this guy off. Oberost is actually going to go in this hex, but this guy is going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 into that hex as well. And that's where Oberost goes. This guy's going to move here. This Cav unit will move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into just northwest of Tannenberg. This unit here will move up, and this
core will move here. Alright, and then marking our attacks. These are pretty much the attacks I'm going to make. Let's see if I have something I can credibly do for the Austro-Hungarians. Actually, maybe. Right here, we have 20 attack factors versus 6. That's a 3-to-1 attack on this stack. What is the defensive value of a mountain hex is -2, which is substantial. So what I think I'm going to do here, where's this weakest? It's weakest right here, actually. So I can move this 1, 2. Get 15 factors against that 4, which is 3-to-1. 20 factors against that 4, which is 5-to-1. And then I can move, shuffle these guys all down 1 hex. There is a minimum move that you can make in this game of 1 hex, as long as you have movement factors. Alright, so believe it or not, the Austro-Hungarians are going to attack as well. Right there. Finally, they're making a counterattack. Makes up for the fact that I screwed the counterattacks up before. So, as you can probably see, counter density is not incredibly high in this game, which is fine by me. So let's put these extra pieces away that we don't need. And let's start with our attack over here. Now we have a 5-to-1 here. See if there's any terrain modifications. There are not. Not aware of anything else going on here. So let's fire it up. That's a 2 on the 5-to-1, which gives me a 1 for the attacker. And these are all half strength units, even if they have something printed on the back. So 2 for the defender, so that's going to eliminate this unit, which was reduced already. Now, let's take a look at Warsaw. We have, I want to say, 8 factors in defense. We have 9 factors in defense. And we have 4, 8, 12, 18. So it's a 2-to-1. However, we have a concentric attack bonus. So that is worth +2. Plus -1 for there being a fortress. And I want to say that the rivers don't affect anything in combat if they're in a city. Let's see if I can find that. Let me pause and take a look. So there's a -1 for the city, but units in a fortress, which this is, are not subject to the concentric attack modifier, even though it's pretty well surrounded. I can't really pump up the odds anymore here, so we are going to make the attack at 2-to-1 -1, which this could be a disaster. So let's take a look and see what we get. It's not looking good. We have a 5 on 2-to-1, actually. 5 gets us 1 attacker loss and 2 defender losses. There are going to be 2 steps here, and there's nothing that can retreat, so we're going to have to lose a step for the Germans, and we're going to preferably do it. We don't want to lose the active core. Oh, you know what? We got a +1 for the active core, actually, so that's a 6. So that is 0-2, not 1-2, so the Germans don't lose anything. And we will move up, advance after combat, and actually this guy can advance after combat as well. There's no good reason for him not to. That is a second Russian or Russian-Poland city that has been taken this turn. Now we have this attack here. Let's take a look at this. We have 7 factors in defense, and we have 5, 6 for 11, 16. So that's a 2-to-1. Up 1 for the, there's a river, so up 1 for the active core, down 1 for the for the river. So this is a straight up roll. That's a 5. That's a 1 loss for the attacker, 2 losses for the defender. So the defender will be eliminated, but we have to lose a point here from somewhere in the Germans, and we'll lose it here. But we'll move this unit up, advance after combat. And we have one more attack right here. This is another marginal odds attack, to be completely honest about it, but here we do get the concentric attack bonus. So let's see what we can do here. We have 4, 10, and 12 versus 6, so we're at 2 to 1, plus 1 for the active core, plus 2 for the concentric attack. So this is a net 2 to 1, a net plus 3 to the roll. That is not that good. That's a total of 5 at 2 to 1 is 1 loss for the attacker and 2 for the defender. So the defender's core is eliminated. Put him in the dead pile. And I'd be a little surprised if we'll get rid of this, because that's the smallest number of factors we can get rid of. And we will advance after combat up here. Yeah, I'm liking that. That is the regular Central Powers combat phase. Now we have Oberost, which basically means we can all fight again. So we are going to... let me think about this here. No, I like that. We've got a concentric attack we can do here. And that's going to be 10 to 6. So it's 1 to 1. That's not that good. Actually, we can get this stack in on it as well. But we can also attack this, and that's going to be 3 factors versus 10. That's at 3 to 1. In what terrain? Three to 1 with no modifying terrain at all, plus 1 for the active core. Let's take a closer look at this guy. It's 5 attack factors. 6. So that's 11. 11 plus 10 is 21 against 6, which is 3 to 1 up 2. Up 3. That's a better attack. So we're going to take this concentric attack instead. So it's going to be 3 to 1. Let's make sure there's no river in there. There might be. There's a swamp in there, so it's -1. So it's 3 to 1 up 2. Yeah. We've got plus 2 for the concentric attack, plus 1 for the active core, and -1 for the swamp. So on the 3 to 1, we have a 6 up 2. That is 8. That's a breakthrough and eliminated. So we have this is eliminated completely. We'll pull Oberost off because it's not doing anything anymore. We'll put him back in on turn 5, which is when I can use him again next. So I can move up to 3 hexes here. So doing something goofy, what I could do is this. However, that does not place this core out of supply. So I think I'm going to do that and be happy with it. 1, 2, 3. That's what I'm going to do. So advancing 1, 2, 3. That's a legal breakthrough move. And that is Oberost. We took some losses for the Germans in that turn, so we actually have some use for replacement points whenever we get any for the Germans. But the Germans do have some reinforcements coming next turn, which are probably going to go help bail out the Austrians because they're in pretty bad shape. We will pull off the ammo shortage counters for the Russians. There is no victory check this turn, so we have completed turn 3. I want to thank you for watching. Please turn in for turn 4, which will be November, December 1914, the end of 1914. As probably predicted, the Germans are doing fairly well against the Russians, and the Austro-Hungarians are doing relatively crappily against the Austrians. So despite the fact that I did an advantageous rules goof for Austria-Hungary, it hasn't helped them that much. They're still on the precipice of collapse. and all we really have to do is lose Krakow, which is admittedly pretty well fortified, and they're still okay. So let's. I'm going to have to probably look up some supply rules, because if this rail line gets cut, then I'm not sure that city will be in supply. But it's a fortress, so I think it always stays in supply anyway. So I'll check into that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.